Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, on AM 560, The Answer. Tune in every week at 5 for an informative discussion about IRS obligations, credit card debt, mortgage default, collection activity, and how to resolve these legal issues using tax resolution, debt settlement, mortgage loan modification, foreclosure defense, and bankruptcy. Your host is Stephen Leahy, a Chicago attorney and the principal at OPM Tax Resolution and the law office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC. Stephen is the author of Deal with Your IRS Problems Today. IRS and debt issues are serious, but there is help. There are resolutions. So get ready and take notes during the IRS Radio Hour. And now, here's your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy.
Hello, Chicago. I am your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, and welcome to the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer. We help people dealing with IRS problems, audits, levies, liens, garnishments, collections, and payroll tax issues. We also deal with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcies, and other debt-related issues. So if you have any of these problems, or you know someone who does, you should contact me, and you can call me on my phone is 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. I want to talk a little bit about that because at chicagotaxteam.com we have a link there for the IRS Radio Hour. And the IRS Radio Hour, we're going to have the IRS Radio cam because we have we videotape the shows, and we're going to start putting some of the videotapes up on my blog and at the website. So if you have questions, and I've already addressed them, and there'll be little summaries about what we're talking about, and we're also going to put them in little clips. So if you have a question, so today we're going to talk about what my blog post today is, why did they audit me? So if later you have a question about that, you can go to the blog. You can go to my website at chicagotaxteam.com, and you can view the video, and we're going to be talking about it. So I want to introduce my co-host, Jim Leahy.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Chicago. If it's Sunday at 5, it's the IRS Radio Hour. The show is about financial and tax matters, but we're also local guys. So we talk about local news, things that happen around politics, family matters, holidays, when appropriate. So let's talk about go over what we talked about last week. We had a little bit of remembering Jack Roser. We still remember him. Yeah, we did. And then we talked about your blog piece last week was about compliance.
Big thing. We had about compliance.
And then we had our and will have our ongoing saga. The IRS, they keep giving us material, and
I think it was probably one of the best weeks.
It really was. It's so we have, and then we have a lot of things coming up. Also, we talked about the taxpayer bill of rights. We talked. We had a pretty good show last week.
Yeah.
Now this week we're going to go into. You have a blog. Your blog entrance is why was I chosen to be audited. We're going to go into our IRS saga again. We have a lot. As we just said, there's a whole bunch of new material and a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. The question, we do have a question from listeners, and then we'll see what's left at the end, and maybe we'll go into some of the history of the.
I had a lot of listener contact last week. People who listen to the show that are contacting me with questions, and met with a couple, and it's always nice to meet people who listen to the show.
Well, what's in the news this week is the Supreme Court's coming out daily now because it's almost over with. So daily they're coming out with new rulings. Last week, at the end of the week, or I believe it was Thursday, they ruled kind of slapped the president back a little bit on his recess appointments to the National Labor Relations Board. He said you can't do it. You can't just say they're gone for a half a day and it's a recess. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a two-sided thing there.
Getting a lot of press because of the Supreme Court because so many of the decisions are unanimous.
Well, they were unanimous. Yeah,
I mean, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I think you can go both ways on that, whether it's a good or bad thing.
Well, they kind of had two rulings on that, though. They went both ways, just to make sure that Scalia is not very happy.
That's right.
No liberal loves when Scalia agrees with him.
Well, that's what I say. If you get Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
and Scalia on the same thing,
then something's usually wrong.
Well, it's true. So the president has to worry about that. And then the pro-lifers were ruled that 35 feet from the door is taking their unconstitutional, and it's the First Amendment rule. And by the time this show comes, supposedly tomorrow, which would be Monday, they're going to rule on the Hobby Lobby thing, and so we're keeping our fingers crossed for that. And
I don't think that one will be unanimous.
Well, I don't think so either, and I hope it sticks up for. We need people to stick up for our religious liberties and our First Amendment. So
I agree.
Ahead.
I was going to mention about next week because next week's the 4th of July, but we'll talk about that next week.
All right. So
but, all this goes back to the Constitution and the Declaration and the Supreme Court and how they're ruling and freedom, and liberty.
And that's what the show is about. What we're trying to do is, yes, it is about your financial matters and helping you, but it's also to remind you of the rights that you have and to realize that the government is there because it's ruled by the people. It's not. So I mean, supposedly. So I mean, after this week and the stuff that we've seen with all the hearings and stuff going on and how smug really the IRS has become.
I agree.
And how they just look at people as if they're, we could do whatever we want.
I agree. If you watch those hearings and you see the commissioner of the IRS, blatantly, kind of defiant.
Yeah, show me where I broke the law. Well, I never broke the law, and if you can find out where, show me. What does that mean?
Well, there's no evidence that there was any connection to any other agency. Or didn't you lose all that evidence? Well, yeah, but there still isn't any evidence.
Yeah, so we have our ongoing saga, and like I said, last week we found out that we're going to name our senators, the 9 senators who have come out against this. I will say one thing. It seems as though the problem being is here it's on the front page of everything. Oh, well, it's not on the front page of everything. That's the problem. Fox News leads with it, and then they all say, well, of course it's Fox News. And it's on, I did watch MSNBC, and even on MSNBC, they were holding up thinking, this is on A19.
I saw that clip that you're talking about with Scarborough, and he was talking about that on the New York Times, that it was on page A19. Yeah, and no mention of it on the front page.
Or no mention of it all on Monday. It took till Tuesday to get there. And then there's a couple of we're finally starting to break through into the mainstream media where they're trying to say, if this was a Republican administration, this would be the cause célèbre. This would be all over everything. This would, we have to remind people.
Might be the downfall of a president.
It was of Richard Nixon. This was the second article of impeachment.
Mm-hmm. Was nothing as nefarious as this
and open as this, because we have. I mean, you have a lady, Lois Lerner, who has admitted.
Now you're going into our saga, though.
Oh, okay. Well,
you can start talking.
That's true. I don't think we have enough time in our saga segment now.
That's probably true.
We're probably going to have to move that into a longer segment because this is just getting out of hand and outrageous. True. So we have a lot to talk about today. We'll get in a little bit of the history of maybe a little bit of the history at the end, and we'll look forward to going into the questions.
Well, again, I want to mention again about the videos because we spent a lot of time on trying to get the videos to work.
Well, they could also go to AM 560 The Answer's website and download the podcast.
The podcast is there. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and like I said,
it's there. So again, if you missed the show, we never want you to miss the show. We want you to listen to the show. But if you do miss the show, there's a lot of options to see it or not now see it, but also hear it. And so, if you have any questions, you should go to my website.
And how could they contact
So you go to my website, ChicagoTaxTeam.com. At the top, there's the IRS Radio Hour link, and then there's a blog link, Opum Tax blog link. Easy for me to say. That's right. So you could go there and you find a lot of information. We have a lot of short videos also about different issues regarding IRS, installment agreements, what's currently not collectible, all these other issues that we talk about on the show. And there's a lot of information there on the website that you can go to and see it.
Actually, when I went to the Answers website, I looked at something we've done this for 8 weeks, or it seems.
Is it 8 weeks?
I think 8 or 9 weeks. It's a lot longer than I suspected.
Yeah, so time flies.
Time does fly,
and if you have children, you know that. Okay, they grow up fast. My kids were gone for about a week, and I think when they came back, he was 6. My youngest was 6 inches taller. It's amazing. So call me 312-664-6649. Join us right here on AM 560 The Answer every Sunday night at 5:00,
and we'll see you on the other side.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, a local Chicago attorney. I believe that God has given each of us unique abilities, and we are to use those abilities to help others. I have helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster. And if the IRS is threatening you with liens, levies, or garnishments, or you have years of unfiled tax returns, I want to help you. Compliance is the first step to resolving your IRS problem, and compliance begins with your 2013 taxes. Are you ready? If you call now, make an appointment, and visit my office for a free confidential consultation, we will complete your personal 2013 tax return at no charge, even if you don't hire me to resolve your IRS problem. Remember, I'm a local Chicago attorney. Investigate me. Simply Google Stephen with a V, Leahy, Leahy, reviews to find out what the Better Business Bureau and others have said. Or call me at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and we are here on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. At the top of the show, they mentioned that I am an author, and I have written a book called Deal with Your IRS Problems.
I was going to say, what is the name of the book?
And so if you have IRS problems and you'd like a copy of my book, you should call me at 312-664-6649. You can send a request for a copy of the book to questions@irsradiohour.com. I'll be happy to send you out a free copy.
A free copy?
That's right. Free.
So don't even bother going to Amazon. Just send it to him. He'll send you it free.
That's right. So this is our blog section.
And so, as we mentioned, the blog entry this week is, why was I chosen to be audited? I had that same question one time, and it was the scariest question I ever had in my life.
Yeah, well, it can be scary. And, that's one of the questions I always get. People usually come to see me right after they have been audited, because I think I saw a statistic, 85% of all audits result in a assessment of additional taxes. Go figure. And
ouch.
Yeah. So after there's an audit. Now, I think that you shouldn't wait to get help before an audit. I mean, after an audit, you shouldn't wait till after the audit. You should get help before the audit. But people usually think, well, I'm an honest person. I don't have nothing to hide. I want to help. I'll help the IRS. Not really a good idea.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so what can they do to me? I'm always honest. I do everything that I'm supposed to do.
I don't have any money. I don't have anything. Why would they want something from me?
Well, we talked.
Believe me.
Yeah, I agree. We talked a little bit about this last week about record keeping, and this is and I think the IRS knows that most of us don't keep good records, and so when they audit you, that's what they're looking for, right? They're looking for records, and nobody has them, and they know that you don't have them. That's right. So they disallow so many of your deductions that's how they come up to say that you owe a lot of money, and then you have to get that resolved. And so So again, most people come to see me after. Now the IRS calls an audit an examination of returns. It's a kind of a nice name for an audit, right? Mm-hmm. We're just going to examine your return, and then we're going to audit you and find that you owe money.
Then they have a red pen. No.
Exactly. And so there's actually three ways that so again, the question is, why did the IRS audit me? What did I do? And so there's three ways that the IRS goes about auditing people. One is what they call it's a computerized system that scores your all returns. So all returns go through the scoring. It's called the Discriminant Inventory Function System. Isn't that nice? They call it the DIF, the Discriminant Inventory Function System. And it's a well-guarded secret about exactly what they look at, because they don't want you to know what they're looking at.
Because then you won't do it.
Yeah. Well, you try to avoid it and try to, it's kind of like a Google analytical, search. They don't want to. The algorithm is secret. And it's kind of the same thing with the IRS. It's a secret. They don't want anybody to know how they're going to go about. But again, what this system does is it goes through every return, and it looks at things. For if you have a big change in income, for example, that might be they call these
red flags.
They call them red flags, exactly. And so, so again, it might be a big change in your income. You might have a lot of deductions as compared to you. So a big percentage of you might say, I have a gross income of this much, and then I have a very high percentage of deductions, and so that will draw some scrutiny. There's, if I have a home office, that's always a big one that they'll come at. They'll come at because people seem to. Actually, if you see the common thread here, it's if you're in business for yourself,
then they come after you.
They're coming after you. Okay, they don't like people being in business for themselves. They'd rather have you work for somebody at a W-2, and that way they get their money every week. They take it out of your check, and you never see it, and you don't even know that it's yours. And then at the end of the year, they're nice enough to give you a refund. Of course, they've been holding it for you.
Do they pay interest on your money that they take from you? Of course not.
Absolutely not. They give it.
But I have to pay them interest on money that I owe them.
That's true. And if you do a amended return, it turns out that they do owe you money, or if they said that you owed money and you didn't, then they will pay you interest back. Very small, So, and they won't compound it daily like they do to you. Okay, when you owe them money, it's a very small percentage now. It's like 2 or 3%, but it's compounded daily. So even at that small percentage rate, it adds up very quickly, and so that's why you want to try to pay you want to try to pay it. So another way that they go about this, again, the red flags are the big thing, and they're looking at all these different returns, and they're comparing yours. That's another way they do this, right? They compare yours to what others have reported about you. Okay, so if I have vendors and they're reporting, hey, they got to give a 1099 now. Any amount over $600, you're supposed to 1099. And so the IRS has all this information about what others say you made. And so if I don't report it and it matches that, they compare them and it doesn't match, then there's a very good chance you'll be audited too. And that's also a big one. This happens a lot when people get divorced, and then they both want to take the deduction for their children. And so we've
talked about that.
That's right. And so it kind of that comparing these documents shows, they both took it. Both of them don't get it. So then that's another red flag that'll cause the IRS to audit your return. And again, a lot of times this is just a paper audit by mail. So they just look at it and say, wait a minute, you didn't report. We have a 1099 from somebody that said you made the money there and you didn't report it on your taxes. So now we're going to add it to what you owe, and then we're going to compute how much you owe. And that's another way. And then there's the third way is random. So they just pick people out of the blue. So you could have done everything right, and the IRS is still going to come after you.
That's like winning a bad lottery.
That's exactly correct. But they use this as kind of a standard, right? Because if they look at the people they draw randomly, and they say, well, and that's where they come up with this compliance gap. So if I randomly choose taxpayers and then we audit them and we find that there's errors, then they can say, well, this is how the population is, and so if 85% of our sample shows that people comply, but 15% didn't. That's where they come up with this gap.
I remember one of our first shows, we had something from Donald Rumsfeld, who was chief of staff, secretary, all these things. And he said that it doesn't matter what your taxes are. They grab it and you're wrong. It doesn't matter who you have do them. It doesn't matter. No one knows the rules.
I agree with that. And they'll always find something, I think. I don't think I've ever... Of course, I see people who have IRS problems, so I guess if they audit them and they don't find any errors, I wouldn't hear from them. But I don't think that happens very often. I think, because of the nature of the IRS code, that if they're going to take a close look at you, they're going to find something in order to find that you owe more money.
To justify what they justify themselves being there. So. The point being is anybody could be out of compliance. So their compliance percentage that they put out, of course, it's probably because it would be 100% of the people that if they checked.
That's right. That's right. Have a problem.
They would have some kind of problem.
But a vast majority of people are, we voluntarily. Of course, complete our tax returns, and we pay the taxes as they come due. I had a group of clients who came to see me, and they were all being audited from the same company, and they thought that this is odd. Why is this happening? It turns out that they all use the same tax preparer, and when they were going to this tax preparer because that tax preparer, those that went to him got large returns, and so his business boomed and everybody's telling their friends, I got this guy who does my taxes, and I get a huge refund every year. You got to use this guy. So they all started using this guy, and then they found out that the tax preparer was doing things wrong, and the IRS found out, and once the IRS got on that, they audited everybody that he did their returns for. And usually what happens when they audit you, they audit you for 3 years. So because there's a 3-year statute, they go back 3 years. Unless you misreported your income for 25% or more, then they have 6 years. And if they think there's anything fraudulent, then there is no statute. They can go back for as long as they want.
Well, Steve, that's and yet they didn't save those. They didn't save their emails. They tell everybody else to save stuff for 7 years.
Well, I agree with that.
You have to turn everybody into a hoarder.
But
for 7 years.
You won't be able to turn around and say, you don't keep your email, so I don't have to keep mine. No, you still have to keep yours. So keep records.
And how could people contact you?
So if you've been audited, you should contact my office, 312-664-6649. And maybe you shouldn't wait till you get audited. If you find that they're going to audit you, you should call my office.
That's right.
Visit my website.
After you stop crying, pick up the phone and call it.
And send me an email at IRS questions at irsradiohour.com.
And we'll see you on the other side.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, and for me, success comes when I help other people. That's why I became an attorney. I know the economy has taken a financial toll on many families and businesses, but I believe that they can recover from their financial problems if they just get the right help. I'm here in Chicago, and I know that if people improve their financial situation, they improve their lives, and I want to help. If the IRS is attacking you with liens, levies, or garnishments, if your mortgage company has threatened foreclosure, or collectors' calls are driving you mad, you need help. We listen to your financial situation, find out what's really going on, and develop a workable solution. Remember, I'm right here in Chicago, and your first visit is completely free and confidential. I will tell you on the spot what can be done and what it will cost. If you are looking for help, you've come to the right place. Call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated. Learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back, and this is the IRS Radio Hour. What are we going to talk about this segment, Jim?
This is our ongoing saga
as the IRS turns.
Last week, as you remember, we talked about the lost emails of Lois Lerner.
That dastardly fiend.
That's right. And, wait, I'm remiss because I always want to start out with the 9 senators who have been brought up by the Center for Competitive Politics and they had a complaint filed against him with the Senate Ethics Committee. We haven't heard anything about that in the last 4 years. The last 4 weeks. But we're going to keep these senators' names fresh so that people will remember. Because the first one is our very own Illinois Senator Dick Durbin.
And he's up for re-election.
So we will remember that he doesn't,
he wants to target those who disagree with him and audit them, use the IRS against them.
Oh, we have plenty of, and there's plenty of tape and proof for that. The next senator is Senator Levin, Senator Schumer, Senator Franklin, Senator Sheehan, Senator Udall, Senator Whitehouse, Senator Bennett, Senator Merkley. Those are the 9. I want people to remember their names because this is not going to go away. We're not going to allow it to go away, and we want answers. You're not allowed to use the government as a club against your political opponents, no matter how much you're in charge, and no matter how much the government these government agencies.
They are really trying to make it go away, and I think that there's been some. I don't watch MSNBC, but I did see a clip where even they were talking about that that this IRS scandal, and it is a scandal.
Yes, it
is not even reported anywhere on the New York Times. So, I think it was on A19, page A19.
Yeah, that's what they said.
So they had to go through the paper, and they're looking on all the New York and the Washington papers. And there's nothing in there about it.
No, and here's Mr. Koskinen, who's now he's the guy he brought in to fix everything, standing there, and we find out that he's a huge Democratic donor. Mm-hmm. So all of the people in the House are over there kissing his ring. Mm-hmm. I was going to use another word.
I know.
But they were kissing his ring. Here's a guy who gives money to them, and then they're standing there saying, oh, how dare they treat you like this.
I think and the more they do that, then the more he is defiant and the more he is arrogant. And I think that the epitome of the arrogance was when they were questioning him about, and he said, no crimes have been committed. And Representative Gowdy had to ask him, well, what statute did you review to determine that? No, well, I didn't have to review any statute. I didn't look at any statute, but I just know that no crimes were committed. But you didn't really review it, did you? What are the elements of a crime? And I don't have to. It's common sense, he said.
And then we found out about these emails. Now, we found something else out that hardly anything has been said about. But there was a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. This was the national. I think it was the Organization of Marriage.
Yeah, and the
National Organization for Marriage had filed a lawsuit in 2010 about this targeting. And whenever there's a lawsuit filed, there's according to the civil procedures, the Federal Code of Civil Procedures, the other side is required to
save
documents. So even if her laptop
hard drive
crashed in 2011. Well, this lawsuit was filed in 2010. They should have already taken those emails away and put them in and preserved them. And also with the 6-month tapes, those tapes should have been preserved by law.
Not even that. Somebody should go. They had a contract with a company that was supposed to be saving everything. And they said they no longer have it, but they had it back then. Where is the information that was on there? This is just a blatant thumbing your nose at the American people. It's unbelievable that they can get away with.
Again, I think it's the arrogance to just say, "Well, there's nothing here. Don't worry about it." Our comrades in the media are not going to talk about it, so we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to. And the new spokesman for the president who came up and said, "Hey, this is ridiculous. This is a Republican fake scandal,
a phony scandal." We've been hearing that now for 3 months. Every week something new comes out. Now you have Senator. Now that you had Senator Grassley, Ms. Lerner received a note that was supposedly, or a letter supposedly going
an invitation
that was supposedly go to Senator Grassley, saying that we would find a way to pay for his wife to go, but he never received it,
and he never went to that,
and he never went to the meeting. But still, she sent it up the line, saying, "Don't you think we ought to audit him?"
That's what.
And this group. I mean,
it's like anytime you find something out, this isn't the first time that she's done this. So here is a woman in the IRS who's very powerful, and on a whim can say, well, let's audit this guy. Let's audit that guy. Yeah. We talked in the last section about the rules about auditing, but maybe there aren't any rules. Maybe it's, hey, let's do him, and let's just say it was random.
Oh, well, just by her actions, we can see that it was random. And I will say, I mean, not random. I mean, it's been targeted. We know that they could do it. I mean, people around this state. I know people who are Tea Party people. I was in groups with 16 people, half of them being audited. So and that's one of the things I wanted to say in the last section.
One of the problems, though,
politics has a lot to do with who's going to get audited.
One of the problems with that is that a lot of them are self-employed too. So visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me 312-664-6649. You have an IRS problem? Call me.
See you on the other side.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, a local Chicago attorney. I believe that God has given each of us unique abilities, and we are to use those abilities to help others. I have helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster. And if the IRS is threatening you with liens, levies, or garnishments, or you have years of unfiled tax returns, I want to help you. Compliance is the first step to resolving your IRS problem, and compliance begins with your 2013 taxes. Are you ready? If you call now, make an appointment, and visit my office for a free confidential consultation, we will complete your personal 2013 tax return at no charge, even if you don't hire me to resolve your IRS problem. Remember, I'm a local Chicago attorney. Investigate me. Simply Google Stephen with a V, Leahy, Leahy, reviews to find out what the Better Business Bureau and others have said. Or call me at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy. This is the IRS Radio Hour, and we're on AM 560 The Answer.
The Answer.
Every Sunday at 5 o'clock.
And, Steve, this week's question, it come from our listeners, is how long after bankruptcy do I have to wait to buy a home?
Well, this is a common question. I get this a lot, this question. Got a call this week, not only from a listener, but from somebody, a prior client. He said, well, I'm trying to get a home loan. I just came out of bankruptcy. How long do I have to wait? I've helped people as short as 1 year from the bankruptcy to get a home loan. I think it's changed since 2008. It was a lot easier before 2008 to get a mortgage than it is now. But just recently, I helped a couple who had been out of bankruptcy for just barely 2 years, and they got a good mortgage and bought a home. So it doesn't. I always hear, isn't it 10 years? Isn't it 7 years? And what the 7 to 10 years really talks about is what your credit report, how long they report on your credit report, how long you've been in bankruptcy. But actually, your credit report talks about all of your financial history for 7 to 10 years. And 7 to 10 years really depends on the reporting agencies. There's 3 different reporting agencies. Some go 7 years, some go back 10 years. And that's why you hear this 7 to, that it's on you. It'll ruin your credit for 7 to 10 years. Not always true. Sometimes the best way to improve your credit kind of counterintuitively is to file bankruptcy, because I get rid of all of my, usually if I'm filing bankruptcy, it means that I'm behind in a lot of debt. So when I'm behind in debt, that is reported, my late 60 days, late 90 days. The longer that goes, the lower my score goes. So if I can file bankruptcy, I'm not late anymore. And so I can start rebuilding my credit. If I had to pay back all that debt, it would take years. And by the time I could do that, my score could have already rebounded. So I've seen people 2 years out of bankruptcy in the high 6s, because you can repair your credit after bankruptcy, and you don't have to wait 7 to 10 years. But I think one of the biggest questions also involves foreclosures, because I help a lot of people who are in foreclosure, and that's a different rule. And sometimes you file bankruptcy, and now I'm no longer obligated on that mortgage, but I'm still on the deed to the house. So until that goes through and there's a sale and then the deed is transferred, I still own that home. And so if I try, even though I've been out of bankruptcy for 2 years, if the foreclosure was after my bankruptcy discharge, that's going to be a impediment to getting a loan modification. The Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, which are the quasi-governmental organizations that buy most mortgages, they have rules of now 2 years. You have to be out of foreclosure for 2 years, sometimes 3 years. There's different mortgage lenders have different rules, and so sometimes you have to go about and find different lenders. So again, some won't do it for 4 years. So it really depends on what lender you're going to use. So
like I was saying, if it's bankruptcy, so you're telling me bankruptcy is different than the
foreclosure, because how the foreclosures work are is independent from bankruptcy. So again, sometimes I want to file bankruptcy before my house is sold, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And if you're in foreclosure and you're having some financial issues outside on top of the foreclosures,
how can they get in touch with you?
And then before, this is important because too many people come to me after the house was sold, and then here in Illinois, they can get a deficiency against you. And a deficiency is the difference between what they sell the house for and what you owe them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there might be a big gap there because of the values of homes have gone down. If I haven't paid in 2 or 3 years, that accumulation, what they call arrears, has gotten to be a big number. And sometimes that's that big number of arrears that can qualify you. And I remember I talked about that's kind of a misnomer qualification. But you can overcome the presumption of abuse given how much your secured debt is. And so if I'm behind in my mortgage, my secured debt is very large, and it might make a Chapter 7 something I can do where if I wait till after it's sold, the debt is no longer secured. And because it's no longer secured debt, I don't use it in to overcome the presumption of abuse. And so now
the presumption of abuse means?
In a chapter to overcome the presumption of abuse, if my income is more than the average income of a family my size, then there's a presumption that it would be abusive for me to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Okay, so I can overcome that presumption and still file a Chapter 7, even if my income is very high, if I have a lot of secured debt. So if I'm behind in my mortgage, if I have car payments, and I have a lot of other secured debt, I can overcome this presumption of abuse. So I've had people come to see me, I lost my home last year, and I want to get out of all this debt, but I can't help them in a Chapter 7. They have to go into a Chapter 13, and a Chapter 13 is going to be 5 years of making payments. So it's important. So if you're in foreclosure now, call me now. Don't wait till after it's over, okay? You could get me at 312-664-6649.
And where else could they?
Then go on the web. It's chicagotaxteam.com. Now, my blog also has a lot about Chapter 7, Chapter 13, foreclosure defense. All of that is on my blog. I address a lot of these issues on my blog. So if you have a specific question, go there, find the answer, or call me. Again, it's 312-664-6649.
And speaking of the answer, we're at AM 560, The Answer.
And we're here every Sunday at 5 o'clock.
And we'll see you on the other side.
IRS Radio Hour.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, and for me, success comes when I help other people. That's why I became an attorney. I know the economy has taken a financial toll on many families and businesses, but I believe that they can recover from their financial problems if they just get the right help. I'm here in Chicago, and I know that if people improve their financial situation, they improve their lives, and I want to help. If the IRS is attacking you with liens, levies, or garnishments, if your mortgage company has threatened foreclosure, or collectors' calls are driving you mad, you need help. We listen to your financial situation, find out what's really going on, and develop a workable solution. Remember, I'm right here in Chicago, and your first visit is completely free and confidential. I will tell you on the spot what can be done and what it will cost. If you are looking for help, you've come to the right place. Call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated to learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, Back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy.
And welcome back. I am your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, and we are here on the IRS Radio Hour. And I wanted to...
An AM 560, the answer.
That's right. So, I like that last question. The last segment we talked about bankruptcies and foreclosures. And I like that question because it kind of brings everything together and all this, how it all affects people. Okay, because I think that's something that most people don't think of. Right? If I'm having financial problems, okay, I have to file bankruptcy or I have to do something, and then how do I recover from that? And that's such an important part of it. I think that is overlooked too often. Is overcoming these problems, so I can get rid of my debt. But then how do I get back in so I can buy a home, so I can have credit again, so I can.
Which is why it's important for people to come here on Sundays at 5:00 to listen. And to be able to go to your website, which is what?
ChicagoTaxTeam.com.
And leave a question if they have questions.
That's right. There's a form there. You can do that. Or you can just send me an email, and the email is at questions@irsradiohour.com.
Well, this week we talked about a lot of things here. We talked about the why they were chosen to be audited. We kept up with the IRS saga. It looks like we're going to have to move the saga to a longer area, a longer part of the show, because they just it keeps getting worse and worse.
Or better and better, I guess.
Or better and better. Well, it's worse and worse if you're an American citizen. I'll tell you that right now.
That's right. I think the whole world now is an American citizen. All they have to do is show up and they're an American citizen. So.
That's another show.
That's right. This is not the immigration hour.
That's right. Well, we're not going to talk about that right now. But that does affect the IRS. The Supreme Court talking about the president yesterday, and it looks as though the Speaker of the House is going to try to sue the president.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
It is an interesting thing, and some people say that it's impossible, and some people say that there has to be some kind of relief somewhere. And
I think there's got to be something between impeachment and doing nothing.
Well, I think you're right. I think you could sue him and impeach him, but that's
before we go today, I want to mention next week's show, because I think everybody should join us next week.
Yeah,
at
please
5
make sure
o'clock,
you're here next week,
because we have a show for the 4th of July, and we like to talk about holidays and where they come from and what it's all about and why it started. Why do we why do we even celebrate these things? I think too often we forget why we do things that we do.
That's right, and we're going to give a little bit of background and maybe a couple important speeches and stuff. There are things that I do every year with my children. I always read the Declaration of Independence to them. I mean, they hate it. I mean, they start running when I bring out the book, but they've been having to do it since they were a kid. And then maybe Patrick Henry, and there's a lot of things about the guys who signed the Declaration. There's this is a legacy that they left us, and it's up to us to keep it going. This is. As Ronald Reagan said, you're only one generation away from losing your freedoms.
And I have to say that we forget why we do things. And 4th of July is great. There's lots of parades and picnics and barbecues and baseball. I love baseball games.
That's true.
But we forget again why we do what we do, and the men that took the courage that it took. And
I mean, their duty, their sacred honor.
Their sacred honor. I mean, I love that about in the Declaration of Independence, and so that's what we're gonna talk a lot about that next week.
And it's important.
So join us next week. Make sure you join us next week, 5 o'clock Sunday nights, AM 560. The answer.
And how can they contact you, Steve?
So if you have an IRS problems, you should contact my office at 312-664-6649.
Is there a podcast or anything?
There is. You could get the podcast on our website. There's a link there, IRS Radio Hour link. You can go to AM 560, The Answer, and on their website, and they have a podcast, and you can hear the show.
And see you next week.